This episode of the podcast is brought to you by The Seller's Resource at thesellersresource.com. Stay tuned to the end of the show to get more information about The Seller's Resource, which is a new tutorial resource that I have created just for Etsy sellers. The podcast is also made possible by listeners like you. I just ask the questions and do the technical stuff. The real gems are sellers like you who share their Etsy stories and lessons learned along the way. If you'd like to be featured on the podcast, please go to convome.com and click on the Be My Guest tab at the top. Simply fill out the short form letting me know that you'd like to be featured on the podcast, hit submit, and then I'll take it from there. And I thank you in advance for being a part of and helping to enhance the Etsy Conversations podcast community. I look forward to featuring lots more Etsy stories, yours included, on the podcast.
Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Thank you and welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast. I am your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me for another podcast episode. This week, my guest is Laura Plenzik, and she runs the Etsy shop Fashion Meme. She's been selling in fashion memes since 2012, and Laura is going to share her story with us because she started off doing something else on Etsy and then switched, and I know that that is something that a lot of sellers grapple with. So I'm excited to talk with Laura about that and so much more. So Laura, thank you so much for being my guest and welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. Now, before we start the conversation, can you please just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Of course. Well, I'm Laura. I am a fashion designer. I have about 10 or more years experience in the field. I was born in Venezuela and have been living in the US for the past 4 or 5 years. So I started on Etsy around 2010 with my first shop, and I just loved it so much. And then I created this whole separate brand specifically to sell it on Etsy, and then it just took off.
So when you first started on Etsy in 2010, you had a different shop than the one that you're running today. What were you selling in the beginning?
So I was selling more like cocktail dresses and clutches, that kind of thing, because that's what I used to do back home. I used to do a lot of custom dresses for like weddings and parties and quinceañeras, that kind of thing.
Nice, yeah.
So when I started, I was actually living in Spain. And I just randomly, I don't know, I guess I was researching something on how to make this specific like sewing technique. Yeah. And then I saw a YouTube video where they were interviewing this person. I don't know if you're familiar with this YouTube channel called Threadbanger.
No.
Well, it's a couple and they like have been doing DIY stuff since before like everyone else was doing it. Okay. But anyway, they were interviewing this one person and she was talking about this baby clothing that she made. And she mentioned that she sold it on Etsy, and I immediately like opened up a new window and I was like, what is this Etsy thing? Like, wait, I can sell my stuff online. So I just posted a few things that I had just like randomly, not even thinking much about it. I just filled out all the fields and posted some random photos that I had and just kind of forgot about it. And I guess like a month or so after, someone bought one of my things. I was on vacation. I had to like text them and be like, hey, this isn't going to ship for like 2 weeks.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But yeah, I couldn't believe it that someone in the other side of the world actually wanted to buy something that I made. So I sort of stuck with it. But then when I went back to Venezuela, I decided to create something that could be more of like a ready-to-wear thing where I could make more of the same item several times. And it wasn't more, I just didn't want to make so many one-of-a-kind things.
Right. And so I guess now, would you say it's easier because you're not making as many one of a kind? Have you found that it's easier to run your Etsy shop when you make things that you can make multiples of?
Of course, because part of the work is that you have to create the listing, you have to photograph it and do all the research that goes behind the product and how people are going to find it. So you only have to do that once. And if there's enough demand, then you're just going to be making the same thing. I mean, it's still handmade. It's just not one of a kind.
How do you deal with sizing, since it's clothing and people have all different sizes? Even though it's not one of a kind, you still kind of have to account for variations in bodies. How do you manage that?
Well, that is the bane of my existence, to be honest, because it's just, even if you go to the mall, you're going to see that you're not size large from this brand or that brand.
Yeah.
It's a whole issue in the fashion industry because it's not standardized. So I have my size chart that I use, and if there's the size chart there, and people are supposed to compare their measurements to it, and it so far have been okay. I mean, I get the usual, I assumed it was just a regular size large, or there's the people who don't read or are too excited to get the product and they just add whatever to their cart, but I will just make them a new one, or it's not a big deal. I also make custom things if people want a specific size, if they want it sometimes smaller at the waist, bigger at the hips, that kind of thing. So I can make that. I mean, that's the beauty of Etsy, that people can just message you and send you their measurements.
Yeah. Okay. So for the most part, everything that's listed in your store is ready to go. And then if someone wants some specific customizations, like if something needs to be adjusted, do you just take one piece that's already made and then make the adjustments to that? Or do you create it from scratch for that individual?
I will create it from scratch, but honestly, most of the things in my shop are made to order.
Okay.
I just make it to the size so that I don't have to keep stock of several sizes. I just, someone orders a small, I make a small and pack it and ship it. So that's how it works.
Now, Laura, since you studied fashion design, so it sounds like you knew from the get-go that was where you were heading. That's what you wanted to do in life. Do you ever sometimes feel or plan for ending up outside of Etsy, like maybe doing New York Fashion Week or LA Fashion Week, the things that, in the fashion world, people strive to attain and achieve? Or do you feel that the niche and the home that you've created on Etsy is just right where you want to be?
Honestly, I don't think I could handle something as big as being on a fashion week.
Really?
It's very rough. It's very cutthroat. You have to invest insane amount of money to even pull it off. I mean, of course, I would love to just be able to do that, but I don't think I'm at the level where, I mean, there's a lot of small fashion brands get into that, and then it's kind of like you're way in over your head situation. So I don't know. I don't really dream about that. I mean, it's not, I like where I am right now.
Yes.
I just, if I can scale this up slowly, then that is kind of what I want to do.
I like that realistic the realistic point of view and expectation that you have, slowly scaling and then just realizing that, hey, New York Fashion Week is a whole different ball game. And
Yeah,
maybe
it's just another, I don't think I could do it like by myself. I mean,
right,
maybe if my business grows to the point where I will have um, employees,
right.
at least a couple, maybe
Mm-hmm.
I would consider it. But I think that on your own is just tough. I mean, even doing like a craft fair is just a lot of work, and
Oh yeah.
it's hard.
Yeah.
So I don't really like. That's not one of my goals, to be honest.
Okay. Speaking of goals, so when you first opened your Etsy shop, what was your original intention? What was your goal? Did you come on aiming to make this your full-time income, or was it more of a, well, let's just see what happens, and if it takes off, it takes off. If not, I have a backup plan.
A little bit of both, to be honest. I knew that it could be good because I had already tried with the other shop,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a way of expanding and being able to sell to other countries.
Yeah.
Uh, so, but also I'm not a goals person like that. I just kind of go with the flow and
Yeah.
see if things work. But so far it's been good, so
Yeah.
I'm sticking with it.
Now, this is something else I wanted to make sure I ask. So, you're like I think you're the only person to date that I have talked to that has been an Etsy seller in more than one country. You know what
Yes,
it's like to be a seller outside of the US, and you know what it's like
yes.
to be a seller inside the US. Can you just compare and contrast what that is, just so someone listening has an appreciation for what it's like on both sides of that coin?
Well, yeah, I think it's funny when I see US sellers so worried about international shipping
Yeah.
because to me that was a no-brainer. I had to ship internationally,
Yeah.
Um, so like when I moved to the US, it never crossed my mind to stop selling to other
Mm,
countries.
mm,
Uh, it was weird. Like people wouldn't necessarily even know where Venezuela was. So I definitely saw a growth in sales when I moved to the States, because people trust shopping from your own country. They don't want to
right.
necessarily shop from overseas because sometimes they're like, well, what if this is a scam, or if I never get my item,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What I tried to do when I was still back there was I over what's the thing like over delivered,
Yeah. Under promise, over
under promise
deliver.
and over
Yes.
deliver. Yeah. So I will say that shipping took 20 days and or 30 days, and then I knew that it was like 15 or so,
Yeah.
but the postal service is not that reliable, so sometimes I will ship FedEx, and then I could add a little bit of the shipping price to the product
Right.
to not make it so uneven.
Yeah.
And then also the currency exchange rate was very much in my favor, so I could get away with that.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and then when my boyfriend, now husband, moved to the US, I will do like a drop shipping thing where every couple weeks I will pack all the orders in a FedEx box
Mm-hmm.
and ship it to him, and then he will repackage,
Oh,
mail everything home.
nice. Yeah.
He has been so supportive throughout this whole situation. Yeah. Whenever
Nice.
I go on vacation and he's stuck here working, he always ships my packages. He's the best.
You go on vacation without
Well, sometimes.
him? Okay. Oh, good. All right. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that, because you're so right. I know a lot of sellers, particularly in the US, will avoid international shipping just because it seems like this, big, thing that it really, really doesn't have to be and isn't.
I mean, I guess depending on what you make, but clothing is really not that complicated.
Yeah.
It's not gonna break or anything like that. So I
Yeah.
never really had issues. I guess if you're outside of the US, what I would say to people is just do a little bit of research on FedEx or DHL or those kind of companies.
Yeah.
It might be worth it in the end.
Okay. And then I know a question that I've gotten from international sellers is sources for shipping supplies. Did you rely primarily on local sources when you were outside the US, or were there international sources that you used to get things like your packing boxes and packaging materials that maybe others who are outside the US that a lot of the US companies I have mentioned on the podcast might not service?
Well, I really didn't need much other than tissue paper and envelopes. So
so that's easy enough.
Yeah, I would just, buy it at the local store. Never had issues with that. I always pack things nicely, but I always do a little bit of a plastic bag situation because you never know
if it gets wet,
all the places this package has to go through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So getting back to selling on Etsy and your first sale. Now, when you first started selling through Fashion Meme, did you do a lot of research to figure out, okay, what type of clothing or what type of line should I carry, or did you just go with what you wanted to make? Because there are two schools of thought. There are some who say you should research the marketplace and see what niche you can still fit into that isn't so saturated, versus just making what you know and like to make and just putting it out there. Which way did you fall, and how has that worked out for you?
So when I started Fashion Meme, I was just back from Spain, where I did a master's in trend research. So I was very obsessed with just trying to identify whatever could become a trend.
Okay.
And I kept sort of seeing the same things around me and online. And that's what I based the first collection on. I also had a little bit of inspiration from this bunch of materials that were left behind by my aunt Eva. She used to have a lingerie line in the 90s. And there was all this stuff, these laces, and I just took all these materials and just started working with those and mixed it up with what I thought was the forthcoming trend. And also I wanted to do things that weren't complicated to produce. So I started making leggings and the shorts and that kind of thing. That's sort of how we started.
Okay. And so now, do you make particular lines? So like you'll have like a fall line, and then once that runs its course, you create new lines, or do you have some things that are just always staples and you just always have them available?
Yeah, I don't do lines like that.
Okay.
I just sort of try to update the best sellers and have new things every so often. Right now I'm trying to work on things for Halloween because it was huge last year for me. So I'm trying to get started on that right now.
Yeah.
So that I have enough time for production and photography and all that.
And for you who is listening, we're actually recording this conversation in May of 2018, and
Yes.
Halloween is not for another 5 months.
Mhm.
So that's some serious planning, Laura, that you're doing.
Well, that's kind of how it should be,
Yeah.
because it takes a while. Obviously, you can't predict everything that's going to happen,
Yes.
but I'm trying to capitalize on that because, like I said, I did great last year.
Yeah.
So, and it was kind of unexpected. So I'm going to see what I can do to make it even better this year.
Okay. And so just to give someone who wants to learn how to plan ahead a good idea of what's involved. So 5 months out, you start to think about what you want to do for Halloween. Then from idea to having the products ready, what is the timeline that you anticipate, and like when do you think would be the best time for the products to actually be listed in your shop so that you don't miss that particular selling holiday?
Well, I think you should have your things listed at least a month before
Okay.
the big holiday hits. I don't typically do that great for like Mother's Day or Valentine's Day or Christmas.
Yeah.
My big surge is in spring and summer. But I try to plan ahead for that, but I'm not always that great at it.
Yeah.
Like all the new things that are in my shop, I have just been listing them this past week. We did the photo shoot at the end of April, and I started on that like mini collection thing in January, but really I should have been working on that last year.
Oh, wow.
I feel like I'm late to the party, but Etsy and the internet is kind of great anyway, because you will always have the random person wanting to buy throughout the year. I mean, you don't know what people want, what people need. And that's actually what I love about selling online and shopping online.
Yeah.
That, I mean, the sales cycle, especially here in the US, is so crazy. Like I remember a couple of years ago, we were going to go on this trip and it was September. So we went to buy a swimsuit and there wasn't anything. It was all winter stuff at the mall. So I was like, okay, I guess I have to be cold now.
Yeah. Yes, I know. Sometimes it's annoying because you're like, wait, hold on. We're not there yet, but
Exactly.
it's just the nature of it. I know for my shop, I feel like most of the people who buy from me are like, what do you call what do you call them, like just random, like, oh, by the way, I need this, there's no rhyme or reason or anything, but then it's the nature of what I sell too. But before I forget, for planning ahead for holidays, and this is just for anyone listening, Etsy has this feature in the shop manager that's extremely helpful, but you have to remember to check it. In the shop manager, if you go to the marketing tab and then click on key shopping dates, they list out all the upcoming holidays or events and what have you. And then it tells you even the specific periods for, when that particular shopping season will be, a season, if you will. So like for right now, we're in May, and the key shopping dates that they're highlighting in that section are graduation season, which runs from April 30th to June 1st, then Memorial Day, then Father's Day, then Independence Day, and then even tells you when the peak wedding season is, and then gives you tips about what people might be shopping for so that you can adjust what you're selling in your store, if appropriate, to what people will be shopping for. Back to school, Halloween, all that. And so it changes as the year goes on. And so if you want to plan ahead like Laura is, and you just really don't know, okay, what should I be planning for? This is a good tool that Etsy makes available to you so that you can plan ahead. And some things might not pertain to what you sell, and you can just move over those if they don't. But that's a nice way to stay ahead of the planning curve. I'm sorry, Laura, I didn't want to derail us, but I just thought as long as we're talking about planning ahead, that's a good thing to mention.
Yeah, Etsy has a lot of good tools for us sellers, and a lot of people don't even know.
No, I know, yeah.
And one of the other things with this, holidays and that kind of thing, is that if you're gonna change tags, you have to do it, at least I think, I'm not an expert, but it's good to do it at least a month or a couple of weeks in advance, so that all the bots can crawl and find your things.
Right. Yes.
Allegedly, I still don't know how all that stuff works.
You just know it happens somehow. But yes, you're absolutely right. You need time for the bots to, now associate,
index you.
Thank you. That's the word. Index you. Exactly. So there's so much to plan for. It's almost like, just doing all the technical behind the scenes stuff for an Etsy shop requires, that can be its own full-time job. Forget the making side.
Yeah, the way that I do that is I use an app. Well, it's not really an app. It's a website. It's called etsyonsale.com.
Okay.
And then you have to pay for it, but it's not really that expensive.
Okay.
So you can go in and add new tags to all your items.
Oh.
So I set it up in a way that because you can only change your last tag. And this was before Etsy allowed the little quick edit tool. So I always left the last tag open for seasonal things. So I just set it up in my calendar, and then I just go in and change the tags to like Mother's Day gift or Valentine's Day gift or whatever pertains to the season.
That's smart. So it's etsyonsale.com.
Yes.
Okay. I will put a link to that, so anyone who wants to check it out can go ahead and do that. So speaking about just how much time all this stuff takes, let's talk about what your typical day-to-day looks like. How do you manage your time? How do you split up your day between all the tasks that you have to do? And just how do you keep yourself organized?
Well, it's hard because you always add more stuff to the to-do list than you actually cross.
Yes, I hate that, but I do it all the time.
Yeah, all the time. I find that a good way to do things for me is batch things together. So I try to wake up early because definitely time is a weird thing. I feel like in the mornings you can be so much more productive.
Yes, I do too.
So, and also my mail lady comes around 10 or 11. So I try to have all the orders that need to go out before that time. And I always have orders coming in the middle of the night from California or whatever. So I like to wake up early to kind of have some time for myself. I'm not like a jump out of bed and get started person. Yeah. So I like have my coffee and look at Instagram and I don't know, see my family chat and ignore them. But at least they know I'm reading it.
Yeah.
And then I get started with orders. So I like to wait until I have a few orders and then I cut everything, sew everything, pack everything. I don't do like the one by one unless it's an express rush thing that needs to get out. And sometimes I leave the afternoons for everything that's computer work because I have 2 separate areas in my house for that. It's just a space issue. And I can be very easily distracted. So I avoid getting on the internet as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because it just sucks me right in. And that's kind of how I do it. Unless I have a lot of work, a lot of sewing work, I will divide my day like that, like half and half. Mornings for sewing and afternoons for computer stuff.
Okay. By the way, I love that time lapse video you have in
Oh
in
yeah,
your
yeah.
about section. Yes.
I want to do more stuff like that, but I need to get me like a tripod or something.
Yeah. Oh, well, that one looked great. I mean,
Well, I duct taped it to, I duct taped my phone to like, I don't know, a piece of wood.
oh, I should tell you, when I do my videos, it's so funny. I have a a box
Okay.
that was it wasn't even mine. I actually got it from one of my sisters who had just bought this brand new pot, but it was a big pot, so the box is big. So I stack books on the box, the empty pot box. I stack books so that I can sit the camera on there. So you do what you need to do.
Yeah, I think I taped it to like a fabric roll or something like that. It came out okay.
It sure did come out okay. I liked it. So then, when do you do all your photography and your listing? Do you also batch that as well?
Yes.
So
Yes.
okay.
I have like sort of cycles throughout the year where I make a lot of stuff and list a lot of stuff, and then I'm sitting around doing nothing. So yeah, I did this photo shoot with a local photographer. It came out great, and I just sit down and write all the descriptions in like a Google Doc file.
Okay.
And then I use either Etsy Rank or Marmalade for researching the tags and stuff for the titles. And then I just sit down and copy paste, add the photos into the listings, and create a bunch of draft listings. And I don't usually publish them all at once.
Yeah.
So that you have like that staggered views.
Yes.
And it looks like you have something new every day, but really you did it all like 2 months ago.
Yes, I do that too. I will have like, hundreds of listings in just draft mode and then just drip them out.
And then depending on what you have, then you can also just copy all listings and sort of fix little details.
Okay, now you mentioned that you will do your draft in Google Docs and then do keyword research using Marmalade and Etsy Rank. Is there a reason that you do it that way as opposed to doing the drafts in, just putting the listing draft in Etsy and then still going and doing the keyword research? Or is it just easier to copy and paste?
No, I use the Google Doc for mostly the description.
Okay.
And because sometimes I have to like take measurements of the item, and I find that easier if I just take my laptop into my sewing area and then I just sit with the items and measure them, put all the notes down. It's kind of like a note more than the actual listing.
Okay.
And then I weight the items so that I know what to input in that little area for the shipping.
Yes.
So it's kind of like all those notes that I don't want to forget when I'm actually listing. And then you want to go through listings sort of fast because it's a tedious process. And write in the description, you can't be all rushed when you're doing that.
Right.
So I like to do that first and try to get a little inspired.
Yeah.
And that's why I do them in a separate file. So then I don't have to worry about when you're listing. I just want to fill everything fast.
Yeah.
And go.
Okay.
And that's kind of, I don't know if it's more effective or not, but that's just how I've been doing it. And this time around, I found that I was actually pretty fast at it. So I guess I have been doing this long enough.
Yeah. And it makes sense to me because I know when I do things in batches, it just moves faster because your brain, well, I shouldn't say because it might not apply to everyone, but for me, if I'm on one track, like if I'm saying, okay, I'm just going to take pictures or, scan something in, I move so much quicker if I'm just doing something repetitive than if it's just doing all the descriptions. You switch tracks in your mind, in your brain, because you're like, okay, how do I want to describe this? What do I think somebody is going to be searching for so that they find this? And it's a very different track you're thinking on than when you're, doing photography.
Yes, yes. I use it for other things, like, I don't know, like cleaning or things like that. I leave all the dishes, and then at the end of the day, I'll do the dishes.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just more effective.
Yes.
I don't know. It works
easy
for
to
me.
compartmentalize. I know I compartmentalize so much. It's unbelievable. People sometimes think, they're like, are you just acting like you're not thinking? I'm like, no, I'm not pretending. My mind is really not thinking like that right now because
but I think it works for me because, like I said, I don't know, I have this attention span or I don't know, a little bird, whatever. I get distracted very easily, so I need to just tell my brain, you're gonna do this thing 1,000 times, but you're gonna only do this thing.
Yeah. Okay, now Laura, you use both Marmalade and Etsy Rank.
Well, I use one or the other. I don't really use them both at the same time.
Okay. That was my question. I was going to say, okay, how do you do that? Okay, so one or the other.
Yeah.
All right.
And I will, because I have like a big chunk of items, so I get in there, I pay for the subscription for a couple months and do all the research, and then I might not renew my subscription until I have enough new items.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. That's a nice way to save money. And
because I will just leave it and not go on there, and then why am I paying this money if I'm not using it?
Yeah.
Although I should use it to like go over old listings probably.
Okay. Do you also use the paid version of Etsy Rank?
I just got on that, honestly, because I heard it mentioned on your podcast.
Okay.
And I think I'm liking it a lot more than Marmalade, to be honest.
You're not the first person who has said that. Yeah.
Pretty
and
good.
You get a lot with the free level, regardless,
I got the paid version because I wanted the keywords. Okay. And it's been great. And while looking for some things, there's always these other keywords that pop up, and then you're like, oh, maybe I can make a product based on that if there's a demand,
Yeah, smart.
I'm keeping a list.
Yes, I know, and it just doesn't stop, right? Yeah. You think you're done, and then you realize, oh wait, no, I'm not. Now, let's talk about how you come up with pricing for your items. Do you have a particular strategy other than just taking into account raw materials and the cost of your time? Do you have a specific formula that you use? How do you decide? So,
this is a very tricky thing for me. It's not easy because, your products are like your babies and you don't want to just give them away. And I found that doing the time plus materials, I keep track of it, but I honestly just go with materials times 4. And then I see what else is on Etsy and go from there.
Okay. Materials times 4.
That's my minimum. That's the minimum I will sell it for.
Okay.
Kind of that's how I kind of get the sense of, okay, well, if I sell it for this, I'll still make my money back.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
It's kind of like a ballpark thing.
Okay.
I'm not very strict with that. A couple of years ago, I wanted to get into wholesale, into Etsy wholesale.
Yeah.
And then when I started researching that here in the US, wholesale is 50% off or even more discount, I realized that my prices were not there. So I redid the math, and then I just did a small 10% price raise a couple of times until I got to where I wanted it to be. But this is mostly for the biker shorts, which is my best-selling item. There are other things that I don't care too much about the price.
So did you go through Etsy's wholesale or you did your own?
I did go through Etsy wholesale, but to be honest, I haven't gotten orders from there.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been active at it. I just posted my stuff and sort of waited. I only have a couple of wholesale customers at this point. It's just you have to go out and find them. Obviously, people aren't going to find you out of thin air.
Yeah.
But it's just so time consuming. I haven't really gotten the time to dedicate to that.
Okay. Yeah. Wholesale is a whole different ball game, and
It's complicated.
yeah. And from what I understand, what I gather, I think Etsy is pulling back on promoting their wholesale. Yeah.
They have a Facebook group, and they keep talking about how sales are down and there's really not much support anymore from Etsy. So I don't know what's going to happen to Etsy wholesale, to be honest. I hope they keep it, but
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it will disappear all the way like Etsy Studio is going to, which I think is going to happen very soon. I can't remember what the date they said was.
Yeah.
But I recently had on Emily Kerr, and she runs Wholesale in a Box, and it's basically, essentially, they help you get into wholesale.
Yeah, I've heard about them.
Yes, and it's, I mean, the service she provides, because we talked in detail about what they do. I think it's like way over and above what, I wasn't part of Etsy wholesale, so I don't know, but I know that she gives a very hands-on type of service, and they put you in front of people, not people, but retail stores that are good matches. They do a lot. So anyway, for anyone who is thinking about that, that was episode, I think it was 226. It just released. I'll link to it anyway, and to Wholesale in a Box too.
I'm interested in working with them. It's just that was supposed to be my priority for this year, but then I got inspired and started making a new collection.
You have to go where the inspiration hits.
Yes, exactly.
And speaking of that, what does typically inspire you when you're creating? Like, where do your ideas come from?
Well, different things. Honestly, I like shopping for fabric. That's kind of where I start most of the time. I don't really draw or sketch a lot. I like to do trend research online mostly. I like to see, like on Pinterest, what's popular, those kinds of things. And then also customers will sometimes reach out to you and tell you, oh, I need this custom thing. I mentioned that I did really good on Halloween last year, and it was with a couple of products that came from customer requests, and then I just listed them and they went very well. So I try to sort of listen to what the customers want. And but there's also like funny things that have happened, like for the lace biker shorts. That came out of me walking out the street with my butt hanging out of my skirt.
What?
Yeah. And then I was like, I need to design something, because I thought back to when I was a kid, and in school we had uniforms and we had a skirt, and I had all these shorts that I would wear under my skirt, and I was like, why don't we have this as an adult?
Oh yeah.
So I just hacked these leggings and made it, and they wouldn't stay up, so I put lace on the bottom, and it worked great. And all my friends were like, I want them. So it became a cool product out of a weird and almost embarrassing experience. Thank God for that. Two women stopped me at the corner, like honked at me, and were like, "Girl, your body's hanging out." And there was like a construction site 2 blocks down. I was like,
Oh
"Thank
no.
you to these women." Yeah, it was pretty embarrassing.
Oh
So,
no.
yeah, I just designed them, and then they started. People liked them. I guess other people had the same problem.
Yeah.
And in the summer it gets hot, so your thighs kind of rub together and it's uncomfortable. So that's kind of the purpose of this product, and that's what designers are for, I guess, for solving problems.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what that story reminds me of? Do you watch Shark Tank?
Yes.
Okay, so there was an episode which it was a while ago, but it was these ladies who came up with these um lacy.
Oh, the bandolets.
Is that what they were called?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like this lace bands that you put in your around your thighs.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're like my number one competitor, I guess.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, but they're like their product is different because it's just for the thigh rub, chub, or whatever you want to call it. My shorts you can wear for different things. So
Okay. Cool.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, I didn't see that episode, but I guess it's kind of the same
Yeah.
problem.
Yes, exactly. Well, more so the idea of this was something that personally affected you, and then you came up with the solution,
Exactly.
and then it's a
Yeah.
solution that works for so many other people because so many other people have that,
Yeah.
have had that issue, and they're like, well, I just don't know what to do, but I'll pay somebody who can fix the problem for me.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about how you get the word out and how you promote your Etsy shop. What primarily do you do for marketing?
I have been trying to focus on Instagram a lot, but I sort of stopped it this year because I realized I was devoting a lot of time to it, and I wasn't really getting any views from there. So honestly, I try to get all the keywords SEO right, and then just complement with Instagram or Pinterest, but my social media game is not strong at all.
Okay. Have you found that you're getting better traction just by focusing on keywords and SEO?
Yes.
Okay. Was Instagram?
And then also creating products that people want to buy in the first place.
Yes, first and foremost. Yes, absolutely. Was Instagram the only social media platform that you tried?
Pretty much, yeah. I linked it to Facebook and Twitter and stuff, but
Okay.
I don't do a separate for each of those. There's not enough hours in the day.
Okay. And so now, are you completely off those and you just focus on keywords?
I'm still on Instagram, and I sort of retook it because I have all these new photos to share. And then because I was able to do the thing where you tag your products on the Instagram post.
You mean by using the Etsy updates tool?
No, like you have to create your shop on Facebook. You have to have a business profile.
Yes.
I mean, I had tried it before, but it didn't work. And then on some Facebook groups, like Facebook groups are the best.
Yeah.
People will just give out their secrets to you.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So someone was kind enough to explain the whole process there, and I went back and did it. And now I can tag my products on Instagram. So I've been trying to be a little bit more active on there. And then I'm also using later.com.
Okay. For scheduling.
Everything. Yeah, it's great because they now allow the automatic thing to go through. You used to have you used to get a notification on your phone and then you had to paste it in and publish it. But now if you have a business profile, it just goes through. So you don't have to do anything.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I had heard that they now allow later. And I know there's another one. Tailwind. Tailwind
Yes,
as
I've heard
well.
of that one, but I haven't used it.
Yeah. Okay, so I will link to both Later and Tailwind if anyone wants to just check them out. They're basically scheduling tools for scheduling your social media posts. Tailwind does Instagram and Pinterest. Later does Instagram. And then there are others for, Facebook, Twitter, etc. How about blogging? Have you found that blogging has been helpful to you in any way?
I haven't blogged for Fashion Meme, or
Okay.
I don't even have a separate website. I'm just on Etsy.
Okay.
I started blogging this year because I started doing a personal sewing challenge.
Oh.
Because I want to make more things for myself.
Yeah.
But that is just like a little personal thing that I'm doing, and I'm just posting it on Blogger for fun.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't really use blogging for my business, to be honest.
Yeah. And I get that because I recently just started writing just because I like to write.
Yeah.
And I don't do it on the Etsy website or anything like you. I just post it like on, I have this free WordPress site, and it's not for traffic or anything, but just because
it's like a journal thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I like that. Sometimes that just helps to just clear your head, get you somewhere good, and then you can carry on,
Yes, exactly. And I have done blogging, but giving products to bloggers to review or things like that a couple of times.
How did that work for you?
Sort of okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to reach out yourself,
Mm-hmm.
There was I don't know, those things kind of come like in waves.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to get people asking for free products all the time.
Yeah.
And then you get excited, but then you realize that maybe they don't have enough followers, or it's not always a done deal.
Yeah.
But really, if you think about it, how much money are you losing if you're only sending a couple of things? And then if it works out, great. And then if not, at least you have one happy person who tried your product, and maybe they can give you some feedback.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to do more of that. I think last year or maybe 2016, I had a client. She bought a robe, a lace robe, to wear for her delivery of her baby.
Oh.
And she posted it on her blog. And I had a couple of views from it, but it was a one-of-a-kind thing. So people were going to that link, but they could still see my shop. And then I just reached out to her and told her if she wanted to check out the shorts. And I sent some to them, and she posted these really cool pictures. And I have used those pictures like even on my business card. So the way I see it is a good way to get, an affordable way to get good photos of your product.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my approach to it. I'm still getting views from her, like 2 years ago, maybe a couple views.
Yeah, but still, it's carrying on.
I mean, that the couple of people who went there, who clicked through and went to see, were because they were actually interested in it. And it's not just, some clickbait or bots, or you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. Now, how about craft fairs? Have you ever tried doing any, and how did they work?
I tried a couple last year. I went to this one in Brooklyn, and I spent so much money.
Really?
And didn't make it. So I decided that, and I used to do a lot of craft fairs back home. But I decided that I could use that money to pay for a service like wholesale in a box, or to reach out to pay someone to help me reach out to stores or things like that. That is kind of pushed to the side a little bit while I get all this new product up. But yeah, I mean, I love craft fairs. I would love to be doing them all the time. I just don't think that they are for me, because people tend to buy other things at craft fairs, not clothing.
Yeah.
They can't try it on, or it's a higher price point. So I don't know. I feel like craft fairs like jewelry does better, or other things, more impulse buys than what I make.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point that you bring up, because you're right. The setting might not be ideal for specific types of products, but you probably would never have known that until you did it and realized.
No, you have to try it.
Yeah.
You have to try it.
Yeah.
I was so excited about this one. I went in Brooklyn and it was great, but I didn't, like, my sales weren't great, and I had to spend all this money to go there and stay there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess you kind of see, if you see craft fairs are sort of a way to get your name out there and network and stuff like that, then great. But I don't think it's for me. And then again, I went randomly to an event a couple miles from my house, brewery. And it ended up being amazing because for the price of the table, we were actually it was like we paid for the event to attend the event. And there was all these beer samples and food samples, and we had a lot of fun, and I ended up selling quite a bit. But it was kind of like a very unexpected thing.
Yeah.
So like craft fairs, you never know how people are gonna react. Like this one, it was raining, so they stuck everyone inside the one tent, and people were just looking more at things.
Yeah.
So they were buying. You know, so I was like, that thing actually worked in my favor, because people were stuck inside the tent looking at things.
Yeah.
But, you know, it isn't always like that. And for instance, this one I went in Brooklyn, it was held in a very amazing antique building, and people were just looking around at the ceiling and at the building and not at the booth. So it's just very unpredictable. So I think I'm saying off those for now.
Okay. And that makes sense too. But like you said, it's worth it to try. Otherwise you don't know, what the market.
You have to try it.
Yeah.
And you have to work hard at having a really amazing booth. I mean, you have to and that is not my strong suit at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my advice to people. Try it. Don't expect to make your money back. And go out and talk to people and see what they think about your things. And maybe it will work. Maybe it won't work.
Yeah.
So
at least use it as a networking opportunity. And for anyone who's thinking of a business idea, making craft booths for people, it's a big deal. Not everyone can do it, but everyone needs one if you're going to do craft fairs.
They have to be sort of easy to pack, because I mean, people fly to other.
Yep.
Obviously, if you're flying, maybe you would just ship it. I did another one in the summer in Boston, and I just took the train.
You go all over, huh?
I have friends that were gracious enough to let me stay with them. But yeah, I took the train because I didn't want to pay the overweight for all the stuff I was gonna see. All the stuff I was gonna bring, and then I just bought like a shelf thing, and then just had it shipped to my friend's house. And after the whole thing, I was like, what am I gonna do with all this stuff? So craft fairs are amazing, but it's just, they're a lot of work. And when you're just a one woman show like I am, you get tired of it.
Yeah. Now, Laura, what's one lesson about selling on Etsy that you feel that you learned the hard way and maybe you can now help someone else not make that same mistake?
I think the one thing I learned is that you can't rely on Etsy alone. You have to diversify your income stream. You have to, I know it's a touchy subject because Etsy's rules, you're not supposed to be selling on other places. But you either have to reach out and try to do wholesale, or you have to have like several Etsy shops or other like side things if you really want to live off of this.
Okay.
That's kind of been my experience.
Okay.
And then also that people don't read.
Oh, yes.
So you have to make your listings very specific and just add all the information as possible. I'm actually using, now that we have the 10 photo thing, making more text assets that I can put in there because people scroll the photos.
Oh,
so
yeah. Oh, that's smart.
They will see that. And this is like upsets me to no end that when you're on the Etsy app shopping and then you scroll down to read about the item, it's hidden. You have to click on another thing to make the thing drop down. That is just, I don't know. Why do you want to make it harder for people to read the information?
Yes, I never thought about that, but yes, you're right. You do have to click to view the description, which it's like, why?
And like with drop down menus, it used to be that you could have a drop down menu for one thing. So sometimes people used it to be like, yes, I read everything, or yes, I accept, or things like that. But now when you only have one option in your drop down, it's no longer a drop down. It's just the information like on the sidebar.
Yeah.
And, I had one customer buy a pair of leggings and it was the last one and it was a size medium. And then they wanted to return it because they didn't fit. And then they left a review about, I couldn't even choose my size. Like, why didn't you ask?
No.
But it's just the flow of how people shop online. It's those little details affect so much.
Yeah. Now, is there something, or not is there, but what's one thing about selling on Etsy that you really like? And then on the flip side, is there any feature that doesn't currently exist that you would like to see Etsy implement sometime in the future?
What I like about selling on Etsy is that you can have someone in the other side of the world buy your thing. And especially if you're not great with in-person selling, that was the aha moment for me when I discovered Etsy, is that I was doing craft fairs and it was so hard for me to like have to constantly talk to people and be all happy and cheery, and I felt uncomfortable. I am way better at it now, but back then I just felt so uncomfortable about having to tell people, hey, buy my thing that I made. So Etsy for me was like, I don't have to talk, I can just write, and if people contact me, I can sit and think about what I'm going to say. So that's what I like the most. And I think it's an awesome community that if you go in the forums, you can see people helping each other out, and I mean, I really love that. What I think that they should do, one of the things I need the most is to be able to print the shipping labels from the app.
Oh.
That will make me so happy.
I've never tried to fill an order from the app, actually.
You can't.
Okay, maybe that's why.
I do it on my phone, but not on the app.
Oh, so you go to the full website on your phone.
Exactly. I mean, there's a mobile version, so it's fine, but it would be awesome if you could just do it from the app. I guess they could be better at like inventory management things.
Right. Yeah.
And I used to go back and see my old stats for like 2 years. And then I will decide, I'm going to bring this product back. But you can't no longer do that.
You can't look at your old stats?
I mean, not for a specific product, I think. Like if your product is sold out or
right.
expired, I guess you can't really see the stats.
Okay.
I haven't tried to do this in a while, but I don't know. What I mean is a little bit more information.
Yeah.
With the stats.
Okay.
I guess.
That makes sense. So Laura, say someone is listening right now and they're a relatively new seller and just kind of floundering in their sales. They're not sure if their product is strong enough. What advice would you give to that person just so that they can keep going and try to be successful with running their Etsy shop and business?
I guess my advice will be two things that kind of contradict each other.
Okay.
But one thing will be don't overthink it too much. Because even if it's great to have all the research and all the advice at your fingertips, sometimes it can feel very overwhelming. I actually I taught an Etsy workshop at a local university here.
Oh wow!
It was great, but at one point, I was worried that I was just going to scare these people into not doing Etsy, because I wanted to give them all this information that I've learned, and that, like, to do that in 2 days.
Yeah.
If someone had told me all of that back in 2010, I would have been like, hell no, that's a lot of work.
You'll be like, moving on. What else can I do?
I would not have even started it. So I learned like by doing it.
Yeah.
So I would just, and then also I meet people all the time. I'm like an Etsy evangelist. I'm like, you have to get on Etsy. You have to do it. Your stuff is awesome.
Yeah.
And people are like, no, but I want it this way. I want it that way. And I'm like, just start.
Yeah.
Just start.
Yes.
Just get on there and start and see how it goes.
Yeah.
I guess the other side of the advice would be, and something that I've struggled with, is that you have this one product and you're like, it doesn't sell, so you change it, you change the photos, you change the tags, you do this. It's like, no, just let it go. If you see that it's not doing well, then try something else. I've heard other people in your podcast with great advice on this, on how they started with one thing and that didn't work, so they tried something else. So I would say to people, don't get too hung up on it. Yeah. I guess that would be my advice.
Okay. How do you let things go? Do you run sales? Do you put them on clearance, or do you just donate them and take like a tax deduction?
I put them on sale.
Okay.
And eventually they'll sell, or sometimes I just end up giving it to friends or keeping them. I have a couple of listings that are like a grab bag.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that.
So that's basically like things that weren't too popular. I just bundled them.
Okay.
And I have two different ones. I have the mystery grab bag, and that's for accessories. And then I have the fashion roulette, and that is people tell me a size. And then I send them something.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. And those are, that's it. I was looking at your reviews, and one of the more recent ones was from somebody who got one of those and apparently just loved it.
I mean, some people love it, some people hate it, but you don't know. I personally would not buy a grab bag.
You wouldn't? I would.
I want to know what I'm getting.
Really? Yeah. No, I feel like if I know the shop and I've had good luck in the past, I would totally buy a grab bag.
I just think it's funny because when I first did that, I just assumed that it was going to be like an add-on thing, that someone will be like, oh, I'm going to buy this. And then, oh, look, a $5 grab bag. I'm just going to add that to my order. But that's not at all how people shop. I shop like that because when I'm going to buy something, I'm always looking to see what else they offer.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to pay for shipping, I want to get the most stuff possible, or I want to get free shipping. But I have noticed that most people on Etsy don't shop like that. They just see it, add it to the cart, and get it.
Yeah.
And the people who order the grab bags and the mystery bag, they always only order that. So I think that they go on to Etsy and buy all the grab bags. They love them. They're the grab
Yes.
bag enthusiasts.
Yeah. It's funny that you call them grab bag enthusiasts.
Yes.
I think I'm one of those people.
Oh,
There's
okay.
there's this website called woot.com,
Mm-hmm.
and every day they'll do a they'll sell off one thing, and they'll have it on sale till it sells out, and then once it's gone, it's gone. That's the end of it. And I think they get closeout merchandise, and that's why they do it like that. And then every once in a while they'll have these grab bags. They call them bag of crap. And it's basically
Hilarious.
just all the stuff that I guess they didn't sell out of, and they
Yeah.
just throw it all
And
into a box, and you don't know what's in the box,
yeah.
and you're just buying this bag of, stuff you don't know what's in it. And I'm
No.
always
Yeah.
going for that because I'm like, yes, I want that.
I think it's cool, like the factor of surprise.
Yeah.
And I tagged it as like a self gift, and I sold a few on Valentine's Day.
Uh-huh.
I think it's like, oh, I'm gonna give myself a gift, and then
Yeah.
it comes in the mail, and you don't know what it
And
is.
you don't know what it is. Yes, exactly.
Well, mine is not crap. Mine is good items that just weren't popular. Just
Yeah.
FYI.
Now, are there any tools that, well, I know we talked about Marmalade and Etsy Rank that you use. Other than those two, are there any, and Etsy on sale you mentioned as well, any other tools that you use that you find are particularly helpful, or resources or books that you've read or websites that you consult that you just find have been very helpful for you in running your shop?
So one of the things I started doing last year is just getting on Facebook groups. After I went to the Etsy Up conference, people kept mentioning these groups, and I joined a few. And of course, there's a lot of stuff on there that's basic, but you don't have to read all of it. But people help each other out. I sometimes give advice to other people. I feel like it's a kind of a useful way to spend your time on Facebook.
Yes.
I also, of the tools for Etsy, there's this other one that I don't hear mentioned a lot. It's called Get Vela or Get Vela.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that.
Yes. And
what do you use that one for?
Maybe it was more popular when Etsy didn't have the newer tools, but I have been using it to add pictures, because now we have the 10 pictures, and you can just go in there and select all the listings and add the picture, and it just automatically adds it to all your listings. So it saves you time, but you can use it for tags, titles. You can use it for pretty much editing everything on Etsy, and it's free.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
And the other tool that I use that also has to do with that is I use Canva.
Yeah. Do you use it for your editing?
No, I use it for creating little information about the product. Like I have this holographic products, and it's hard to see in a photo how much the fabric can glow in the light. So I have a little, I made a little like a graphic to say that in the description there's a link to go to the video of the item. Or I can use it, I use it sometimes around Christmas to be like, hey, these are the shipping deadlines. So it's just to create little graphic assets like that.
Okay.
I also have a certificate in graphic design. So when I started using Canva, I felt like I was cheating, but it's just so easy. Like I don't even open my InDesign anymore. It's just, let's do it in Canva. It's amazing.
Nice.
And I also just use the free version there.
Okay, of Canva, that is. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
What else do I use? I use Google Drive a lot.
Me too. I love Google Drive.
I love it, and I got a Google Home Mini, and that thing changed my life.
Really?
It's awesome. I use it to hear the news in the morning while I'm packing stuff.
Okay.
But also, like, you can talk to it, and it will write things down for you. Or you know, I have a lot of like things that go when you're sewing, you remember stuff or you think of stuff, and then you have to write it down to do later.
Mm-hmm.
So I use it in conjunction with this app called Todoist, and that app is the best for organizing because you can
Todoist. Okay.
Todoist. Yes,
Okay.
I also use the free version on there,
Okay.
so you can have things separated into projects.
Okay.
And I always had issues with like planners and calendars and things because my to do things don't necessarily have a due date. Uh, but with this app, you can just write down as many projects as you want, as many subcategories as you want, and you can give it priorities. It's super easy to use. You just type in and you type in the date and it automatically recognizes the due date, or you tap a hashtag and then it knows what project we're referring to.
Wow. Okay.
And it syncs. So you can have the app on your computer and then you can have it on your phone and it syncs.
Okay.
And if you have I'm guessing it probably works with Alexa too, but you can just talk to it and let it know what you want to write down and it does it for you.
Wow. And
It's
and this is the free version.
Yes,
Wow.
this is the version. Yeah.
That's a lot for free.
Yeah, I think it's great. I use it, and then you have like different colors for things. So I just have like my personal things to do. Like we were talking about compartmentalizing things.
Yeah.
So I have my personal things, I have my eBay things, I have my Etsy things.
Yeah.
So sometimes, life it's all jumbled up, but in this app you can have everything organized.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
things don't happen in order.
Yeah. Sounds good. Wow. Okay.
And I have my shopping lists in there. It's amazing. And what I like about like the Google Home thing is that I don't have to stop and go in my phone to write things down, because then I see all my notifications and I get distracted. So
when you have it write it down, does it send you a text or something?
no, it just shows up in the app when you open it.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
It's
Okay.
really
I will link to all these all the tools that you mentioned. So if anyone wants to check them out, then they can. That's so very helpful. Now, as far as the Facebook groups, any ones in particular that you would recommend, just so folks can actually go and look up?
well, I am in the Etsy wholesale group.
Okay.
And there's another one called Your First 1K on Etsy.
Okay.
That's created by this girl from, what's her, Fussy and Birch. Jenny is her name.
Yeah, Jenny Waldrop.
Yes.
Yeah, I had her on the podcast too. Yeah.
She has a lot of great advice.
Okay.
So the group is awesome because you can see kind of what other people are doing, and sometimes you want to do something and you can't find information on it, so you can just go in there and see if other people have something to say about it.
Okay. All right. And then before I let you go, two more things. One is, do you have an Etsy shop shout out? Maybe another Etsy seller that you've met along the way, connected with, or particularly enjoy their shop?
So I mostly shop for supplies on Etsy, so that could be pretty boring to talk about. Yeah. And I tend to buy more for gifts on Etsy. Honestly, I will buy everything on Etsy if I could. But I have been following this couple that I met at the Etsy Up conference in New York.
Yeah.
And their shop is called Simply Palettes. And their story is just so cool. Like they often went from Connecticut and now they live in a farm and they have like a tiny house. And he's the carpenter and she paints things. I don't know. I just think that their story and their business, even though I've never bought anything from there and it's maybe not my style really, but I think their business is just so like honest and they share a lot of their personal lives. And I don't know. I think they're a cool shop.
How do you spell it? Simply Palettes? Is it P-A-L-L?
I think it's P-A-L-L-E-T-S, but okay. I will make sure and let you know after.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. I just pulled them up. So I can put a link to their shop. Yes.
They're really cool. I guess like as an Etsy business, I think they fit like they check all the marks.
Oh, nice. Yes. And like you mentioned at the Etsy Up conference, you met them, which you and I were talking about before. We both enjoyed the Etsy Up conference and
it was really
hopefully they will do it again one day.
It will be amazing if they do it again. I have been going to New York regularly for a thing called DG Expo. It's mostly for fashion because it's a fabric trade show, but they do little like workshops and it's a good way to connect with other makers and like talk to other people and stuff like that. So I will definitely suggest to people that if there's anything similar in your area to go. Actually, this DG Expo, they go to several different cities.
It's like DG Expo?
Yes.
Okay.
But go to trade shows, do things like that. Go see what other people are doing. Because having like a business like this where you work from home, it can get pretty lonely. So it's good to
get out there. Yeah, absolutely. Now, Laura, if anyone wants to get in touch with you and if they have additional questions or anything, what's the best way they can reach you?
So they can go on my Etsy shop and send me a convo. It's fashionmeme.etsy.com.
Okay.
My Instagram also is another good way to contact me, and that is Fashion Meme Shop.
Okay. All right. And I will link to Laura's Etsy shop as well as her Instagram account so you can connect with her that way. Laura, thank you so much for sharing your Etsy journey, what you've learned along the way, what you're learning as you go, and for so many resources that we can go and check out and use, and your processes too. It's always so nice to hear how people are doing things differently because then it gives us ideas about how we can maybe be more efficient with what we're doing. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having me, and kind of on such short notice. I appreciate that. I feel kind of special. Thank
you. You are most welcome. And I thank you for listening to the podcast. I will be back next week. The Seller's Resource is an all audio tutorial resource I've created for Etsy sellers. It's like the Etsy Conversations podcast, except they're all tutorials about how to do things on Etsy, how to navigate around your Etsy shop, the shop manager, and news and updates about what's going on at Etsy and with your Etsy shop that you might want to stay on top of. And it's available at thesellersresource.com. I will have a link in the show notes for this episode for you to check it out and learn more about it.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.